how did you define yourself? Like, did you come up with that definition, or was that gifted to you?
Welcome to the Achieve Today podcast, where you will learn valuable insights, tips that work, and insider strategies to help you overcome your limiting beliefs and progress towards achieving your goals, not tomorrow, not the next day, but today. My name is Jake Mix, and I am your host for this week's episode, where we will be diving deep and talking about limiting beliefs. To help us do so, we have the Director of Coaching of Achieve Today, Mr. Adam Mortimer. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me here.
Good. Well, we're excited. You're the Director of Coaching. You've been working here. How long have you been working at Achieve Today?
16, 17 years, around there.
16 or 17 years.
Been
okay.
a while.
You're a speaker. You're an author. You're writing your third book right now, which is unbelievable, right? You've done so much in your time here, and then also before that, you have an incredible story. He's the one that's going to be able to talk to us a little bit about what limiting beliefs are, the basic fundamentals, but then also, how to get rid of, well, first how to identify them, but then also to clear them. So, Adam, let's get right into it. Yeah. I first want to hear a little bit about your story. So just give us a background of your life, how you got into personal development, and how you discovered limiting beliefs.
Yeah, for sure. So going back, 6 years old, my family and I were homeless, lived in a warehouse, grew up feeling like making money was bad, feeling like I was just going to be an average person, and that's just how it was going to be. All sorts of limiting beliefs, all the way up into college. I remember my wife come to me when I was deciding what degree I was going to do. She said, what degree do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to do a communications degree. And she looked at me and she's like, is that what you really want to do? And I was like, no. She's like, well, why are you choosing that? I go, I don't know. You're supposed to go to college, and this is the one degree that doesn't involve math. And I had this belief, like, I'm not smart. I can't do math. Therefore, I'm not gonna go for this degree. And she looked at me and she said, Adam, you're one of the smartest people I know. And it was like, that was literally the first time in my life I had somebody like really challenge my beliefs that I was an idiot, right? That I'm dumb, I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought to myself, well, yeah, maybe I can do this. And so I got the paper, took the math assessment. They set me in a math class that was like 3 grades below what you can even get credit for. So I had to go to school, how like, school's not fun as it is. Imagine not getting credit for it either. Right.
Oh man. Yeah.
So I'm going and like, this is a number. And I'm there like taking notes like, wow, this is life-changing. Yeah. But anyway, I had a different mindset, right? Instead of sitting in the back of the class, I moved up to the front of the class. I started taking notes, little things that I started learning. And I'll never forget the moment. It was in calculus class of all places. I'm teaching the class how to do a derivative, and it's taking up both sides of the chalkboard, the whiteboard. And I was just kind of had one of those moments like, oh my gosh, look how far I've come. So I go outside and I'm like, I heard all these people say, if you want to master life, you got to master the mind. So I remember saying a prayer. I went outside. I said, God, I want to master the mind. Like I want to know the secrets of the mind. And the thought came into my mind and my heart, like, my son, you can fill many libraries on that topic. You're not going to learn about it all right now. Like I was expecting a download, right? Wow, that was my thing. But it led me on a journey. I went to the library, and there was a book that just kind of jumped out on the stage of the shelf at me. And it was called The Art of Hypnosis by C. Roy Hunter. And I'd always been interested in hypnosis and, having that mind control, mind power. And I took the book home. Page 84 on The Art of Hypnosis has an induction script. So I went home with my best hypnotic voice. And I said to my sister, my mom, I said, you guys want to be hypnotized? And to my utter surprise, they're like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, really? You guys trust me with this? It's my first time doing it. And so I walked through you are now feeling very, very relaxed. And I started going through the whole thing with them. And I noticed the expression on their face kind of went to just like almost like a blank stare.
Wow.
And I was like, I think they're hypnotized. Like, I think I freaking did it. This is awesome. And so I started doing these little like experiments with them to see if they're really hypnotized. Like, you're feeling cold now. And they're like, oh, you're now feeling hot. And they're like, oh, it's so hot. And then I said, you're on the edge of a cliff and it was the carpet, right? And if you jump over this, you're going to fall off this cliff. Well, my sister jumped and she screamed like she was legitimately falling off a cliff. And I was like, it scared me. I was like, whoa, like, man, if I was like an acting coach, this is like the best secret sauce to become a great actor is just hypnotize yourself. I think a lot of actors actually do that. But anyway, we started doing all these funny things. My dad's watching a BYU football game. We're big BYU fans, and my mom's under hypnosis at this point. And I say, Mom, you are a cheerleader. And I want you to do the most amazing cheer imaginable right now. And she jumps in front of the TV and starts doing this whole like cheer. My dad's looking at her like, what are you guys doing? I'm trying to watch a football game here. So I wanted to push the limits to see, was she just like acting or was there something deeper to this? And so I said, Mom, or I just said, I want you to imagine yourself as a hungry monkey. She starts jumping around like a monkey. And my dad's socks. Now, my dad has notoriously smelly feet. Okay. And so I said, the only food in sight are those bananas. And I pointed to the socks. She gets down on all fours, rips the socks off his feet, and starts stuffing them in her mouth.
What?
I'm dead serious. I was shocked. I was like, what? I was like, wow, that was way out of the order. Like, my mom would never do that in a million years. And I didn't know what to do because she kept stuffing them. And so I go, the banana turned into poo. So she's like, I had to get the sock out of her mouth. And then the phone rings. My sister's still under hypnosis. So she gets on. It's her young women's leader. And I look at her and I go, I want you to sing the I Love You song from Barney now. Without skipping a beat. She busted into song. If you know my sister, she's very shy. She would never do that in a million years. She told me later, she goes, when I went to Young Women's, my Young Women's leader was like, what was with you bursting into song randomly? And she goes, I was hypnotized. And she didn't buy it. She's like, yeah, right. Come on.
Did that scare you that you had almost that much power? Like,
it is scary.
Right.
It was scary, but it was also like, wow. Like, how much of us are walking around every day and we're hypnotized based on these beliefs, based on these like suggestions that have been given to us without our permission. And we've bought them hook, line, and sinker, and we're acting those things out in our lives. So I used the hypnosis. I used it for weight loss. I was couldn't get past 180 pounds, used hypnosis, and I was able to get down past 180 pounds. And it was spooky because I looked at my wife and I said, I'm at my weight goal and I haven't even tried. And she looks at me and goes, what are you talking about? You haven't tried. You've been eating better. You've been exercising. But I had one of those moments like, I have? I had somehow tapped into that habit, right? The automatic function of the body. And it was really a bizarre experience.
Wow. Well, let's talk about hypnosis because it's a very woo-woo topic, right? A lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people don't believe that you can do such a thing or be under such a state of mind. So let's make it more simple.
Sure.
What is hypnosis?
What is it? Yeah.
And can we simplify it a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So hypnosis is when you're driving down the road and you've been following all the traffic rules and everything, but you can't remember the last 10 minutes. Or you're so zoned out watching a movie that by the time the movie's done, you don't even, you're like, whoa, time just flew by.
Yeah.
Or when you wake up in the morning and you know you're not fully awake and you're not fully asleep. You're right there in between. And the reality is we pass through a state of hypnosis multiple times, about 7 times in a day. When you're daydreaming, that's a hypnotic trance. Wow. When you're zoned out, hypnosis has been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's been known. Egyptians used to practice hypnosis. Many people practiced hypnosis. Many shaman practice hypnosis, witch doctors practice hypnosis. But to take the woo-woo out of it, I mean, there's been a lot of studies on hypnosis, and they found that the part of the brain that controls your inhibitions actually shuts down during hypnosis, which is why people can go up and act like crazy people on the stage and seem to not even care about it.
Wow. Okay. Well, very cool. Well, and so when you're in the state of like hypnotizing someone, is it just like changing their core beliefs in the moment, or?
No, you're not changing beliefs. You're working with their belief system.
Okay.
So people won't do what they normally wouldn't do outside of their belief. In other words, even though they're under hypnosis, it's still not full-blown mind control.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
They actually, and people could look this up. CIA used to practice hypnosis back in the 60s, 70s. They studied it through a program called MK Ultra, and this is public knowledge now. You go look it up. Yeah. But there was an experiment that they did. It was very interesting. They had a soldier come in. They wanted to see how far could they get a soldier to go. Could they get a soldier to kill a general? Okay.
Wow.
So that was the experiment. And they had, now, of course, in the Army, you're taught to respect and honor your generals and your officers and people in higher authority. And so to kill them would obviously go against a heavily ingrained belief system.
Yeah.
But here's how they bypassed that. They said that general was actually a Japanese spy disguised as the general.
Oh, geez.
So
wow.
You normally wouldn't do, people aren't going to do normally what they wouldn't do outside of their belief system. But if you can work within the belief system, then you can work it that way. So
okay. So on a personal level,
yeah.
With each one of the listeners who are tuning in, how do you change your belief system? And that might be a discussion about limiting beliefs in general. So what are those? Yeah,
so for sure. So limiting belief is any belief, either conscious or subconscious, that's holding you back. All limiting beliefs have their roots in self-identity, all of them. So it's self-image. And people say, well, why is self-image so important? We talk about that in personal development a lot. Well, self-image is important because, for example, I want you to imagine right now you are the president of the United States of America. Okay. President Mix. You like the sound of that? Huh?
I do. I love the sound of that.
There you go. All right. So President Mix, if you really believed that was true today, you really authentically believed that.
Yeah. How
many of your thoughts, emotions, actions would be influenced by that belief?
Be different for sure.
Well, what do you think?
I don't know. I'd probably just like hold myself to a little bit of a higher standard.
Well, what would you do? I mean, if you really thought you were the president right now, what would you do?
I'd probably talk differently.
Okay. So it impact how you talk?
It probably impact how I talk, impact how I think.
How you think?
Like I'd be a lot more busy. Obviously, there's a lot more responsibility. Man, President of the United States, I would just be a man of confidence. Man who could go out to any audience and speak to them.
So your self-identity would even impact your confidence. It's going to impact how you talk.
Interesting, yeah.
It's going to impact so you start going down the list of all these things, you'll realize that it's everything. Every area of your life is influenced by your self-identity. The reality with self-identity is most people were just given their self-identity. I mean, the question that I ask people is, how did you define yourself? Like, did you come up with that definition, or was that gifted to you? And if it was gifted to you, chances are you were not gifted a healthy self-identity.
Right.
You know, when I started looking at my self-identity, I was gifted the self-identity of I'm the middle child. I kind of felt less than, not good enough. I'm not going to make a big impact. That was the identity that was given to me. I've changed that identity, which has allowed me, kind of set me free from that cage that I was in. Right.
Wow. So how does one find these limiting beliefs or their self-identity, some things? Because it sounds like it's come from the past, right?
It is, yeah.
Or a lot of things that are in their belief system now. So how does one identify?
Sure.
How does one get aware of some of these things?
So a few things that you can do. So one is looking at your current dreams, right? So if you can remember your dreams and people,
as in goals or like dreams,
like literally your dreams, like when you are sleeping and you are dreaming,
all right?
Okay. So when you are asleep and you wake up and there's that brief moment when you can remember your dreams. Side note, by the way, the moment that you can remember your dreams, have you ever noticed how they slip away very fast?
Yeah.
And then you can't remember them?
Yeah, I don't like it sometimes.
That moment, sometimes they're really good. We like those dreams. I know which ones you're talking about. So in that moment, though, when you have that ability to remember those dreams, that's when you're in a space of crossover. That's where the subconscious and conscious are communicating. That's exactly where I'm trying to get you in hypnosis, where there's a exchange of information happening. Okay, that was a side note.
Right. Cool.
So notice the role that you're playing in your dreams. Am I the victim in my dreams? Am I the hero? What role do I play in the story of my dreams? That's a good indicator of how your subconscious mind has chosen to see yourself. Now, if you wake up and you're like, man, I was getting chased, I'm getting beat up, this has happened to me. What you want to do is immediately re-remember the dream. So when you wake up, go back and re-remember it the way you would like it to happen. So you start to rewrite the dream. That's a little bit more advanced, and anyway, I don't share that with everybody, but I'm just giving you an idea. That's one way to help you start with finding your self-identity.
It's interesting.
But also looking at your current reality, right? If it's true that your beliefs create your reality, and I do believe that's true and to a large extent. I mean, obviously there's action, you got to work and things like that, but our fundamental belief systems do create our reality at a core level. Then our current reality is just a mirror of how you see yourself. So you might look at it and go, wow. And that's kind of, for some people, that's like a huge leap of faith to be able to take that level of personal responsibility. Like, I'm responsible for my reality. It might not be your fault. There's a clear difference. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. Your reality that's shown up right now, the parts that you don't like, is your responsibility to fix. And it's a good indicator of how you see yourself. So one of the things we ask is, what are the beliefs that are creating this reality? What beliefs have I bought into that's causing this to show up? If I intentionally wanted to manifest this, so it's kind of reverse engineering it, right? Working backwards. That's one way we do it with our clients. Checking in with yourself multiple times a day, noticing the random thoughts that come up in your mind. Like, what do you think about when you don't have to think? That moment when it's your data just chattering, observe the chatter. What's the mind talking about? Because chances are that's a habit. And that's the way you've been talking to yourself for a very long time. And if you can become aware of that and write that down, then as a coach, we can help clear that out.
So what are some examples of those limiting beliefs or things that you'll start to recognize if you're a little bit more aware?
Yeah, for sure. So we talk about this idea that all limiting beliefs have their roots in self-identity. We also say that what sustains all blocks is our identification with them. Okay. When we say be careful what follows I am, whatever follows I am will follow you. So the moment you say I am just that way, I am this kind of a person, right? That you are literally taking a piece of that and attaching it to your internal identity. And once it becomes a part of you, it can be hard to let go. I mean, it's like chopping off your right arm, right? It can be very dangerous. Can you repeat the first part of that question?
Just some different examples of like very specific examples of things that you'll start to recognize.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe I am statements, right? Or just some examples of this.
I think a lot of people recognize that they may be a little bit more negative than they thought they were when they check in at random. When you're checking in 10 times a day, and the idea is to just get a baseline of how are you thinking, how are you feeling? And we call it your habitual state of consciousness. So that's when you kind of notice you're a little bit more negative than maybe you thought you were. The other big one is you're going to notice some of the common limiting beliefs like I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. I mean, these things, if people only knew how common those three were, we'd all get over ourselves and go out and just live our dreams. I mean, we really would. Like from my perspective, after coaching so many people, it's like, why do we hold on to this garbage, these limitations? Fear of failure is a really big one. And then fear of success. Those are the 5 most common blocks that come up over and over.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, and I really like this idea of reminding yourself like 10 times a day to just check in with your emotions. So do you suggest just putting a timer on your phone, or what would you suggest to do that?
Yeah. There's a lot of mindfulness apps out there. Okay. So download a mindfulness app, a gong bell, bong, and it just, hey, how am I feeling right now? What are you thinking? Yeah. And it just catches you in the moment. It's like, oh, well, I was thinking about this. Oh, I was thinking of, Yeah. And then just write it down. And then we come back and we get a good idea. After a week of doing that, we have 70 check-ins. And I like my clients just to write an up arrow, down arrow, or sideways arrow for positive, negative, or neutral. And then really quickly they get a visual of, are you most often positive? Are you more negative? Or are you somewhere in between? Kind of where are you at?
Wow. So how many of the students that you work with come into the program without ever being aware of what they're feeling, what they're thinking? Like, are you always having to teach these concepts new, or do people have some grasp, and how does that manifest itself?
I think we do a really good job in the initial consultation. Sure. I think this is becoming more and more mainstream, the idea of limiting beliefs and blocks and how to remove those blocks. But there's still a lot of work to do, right? So you get a wide spectrum, but I would say 80% of people that come in and coach with me, they have a basic understanding. Now they don't know how to clear the blocks, but they have a basic understanding of what they are, and they just need help finding the blocks, because it's really difficult for people to see their own limitations.
Oh, absolutely.
I say, try to look at your eyeball without looking into a reflection. And
pretty hard.
we're the non-reversing mirror that shows only the pure truth.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and for those who are listening, I just want to give an idea here. For the consultation that Adam is talking about, it's a 45-minute consultation. You can sign up for it. It is absolutely free, where you will talk with an expert to clarify your goals, to identify some of those limiting beliefs that we've been talking about today. I'm not worthy enough. Different things like that. They have a really good knowledge and background in helping you identify some of those stuff and some of that stuff, and helping you to overcome those. So let's talk about, you've identified it. You've identified, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or whatever it may be. What's the next step to say, I want to get rid of it? How do you remove it?
Perfect. And it's a great question. Removing a limiting belief. You got to understand a few things about emotions and how emotions play a critical role in our health. I think this is something that Western medicine has screwed over a lot of people, because they're not recognizing the power of emotions and how emotions, the emotion of stress, right? Stress is such a vital piece in what causes disease. And why is that? When you're stressed, you get into fight or flight mode, and it pushes blood from your internal organs out to the extremities, and it leaves you susceptible to disease. Have you ever been stressed out and suddenly you get a cold?
Yeah.
Right? Happens
More
all the
often
time.
than not, yeah.
Yeah. That happens all the time. And so anyway, so clearing the limiting belief is turning off the emotion. So here's a question I have for you is, if you couldn't feel emotion, Jake, let's say I just wiped every emotion away from you today. I could hit a delete button in your brain. What would your life be like?
Well, I think the first initial thing would be like, well, it'd be pretty great not to feel any of the negative stuff, but then you'd also wouldn't feel any of the positive stuff, and so there wouldn't be much to life, in my opinion. If you so
you're saying emotion is one of the key ingredients to life.
Oh, absolutely.
Because without it, the most common responses I get, people are, well, you'd be a robot, right? If I didn't have emotion, I'd just be a robot. Yeah, that's true,
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd feel robotic, and so here's an interesting thing that happened to a man. Do you know that there's people right now that have had a part of their brain damaged to the point where they cannot feel emotion? So this is So what happened was very interesting. These people, And of all places, I met 2 people on the exact same day that had this exact same condition that verified that this is true. And anyway, they did a study and they found that these people that couldn't feel lost their ability to make an effective decision. So for example, to decide what socks they were going to wear in the morning, that took them 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine?
That'd be so tough.
And then to decide what they're going to eat for dinner, that took like 2 hours. So their life was it was horrible because they couldn't feel.
Gosh.
And so clearing a limiting belief is really turning off the emotion attached to the belief. And I believe there's 2 key things that drive us. Number 1, it's our emotions. And number 2, in no particular order, they're both important, your self-identity. Those 2 things are what's driving the vast majority of our behaviors on a deep, deep level.
Wow. Well, let's talk about, we've got about 5 minutes left, but I want to get into maybe a specific or practical way that you can clear a limiting belief. Sure. Can it be done on your own, or do you have to have a coach to help you do so?
So it's really good to have a coach to help you identify the limiting beliefs, hold you accountable, those types of things, but you can definitely clear on your own. There's nothing to stop you from doing that and practicing that. I would say with clearing, it's important that you realize it's conditioning, right? Just like you wouldn't work out once and be like, well, I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. You wouldn't weed a garden once and be like, oh, I'm glad I don't ever have to weed the garden again. Well, the mind's no different. There's a certain level of self-care you got to take. So I have 5 simple steps. Number 1, identify the limiting belief. So I'm not good enough. And if anybody's listening, they can go through this real quick with me. I'm not good enough as one, or whatever the belief is. So identify the belief. Number 2 is rate the emotional charge. So when you tune into that belief of I'm not enough, how strong is the emotion, right? So every belief, the subconscious naturally assigns an emotional weight or value to it. And we do this subconsciously. And so tune into it, notice what you feel. You might go, well, gosh, when I think of not enough, gosh, that's like dude, I feel that like a 9, that's strong. All right. The next piece is the metaphor. We know that the subconscious mind works through metaphors. Before the written language, we told stories. If you look at virtually every tradition, especially the indigenous traditions, how did they pass information from one generation to another?
They're writing things down.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, before they could write things down, it was song and dance and story.
Yeah. No, good point. Great point.
So look at Native Americans, look at the Hawaiians or the Polynesian culture, and you'll see that that's how they passed information down. So there's a part of us that's hardwired for story, hardwired for metaphor. And when we dream, we also dream in stories and metaphors. And so that's the language of the subconscious. So we use that same language, visualization, story, metaphor, to eliminate the limiting belief. So a simple one they could do is think of a color. When you notice where you feel the emotion, notice where you feel it in the body, and then give it a color. You might say, well, I feel it in my heart, and it's like red is the first thought that comes to my mind. Okay, great. If you can't think of a color, make a color up. It's not a big deal. Okay, just attach that to, it's more of the association that's important.
Okay.
So you visualize it, you see it, and then you actually visualize pulling it outside of your body and then chop it up. Step number 4 is you re-rate it. Step number 5 is rinse and repeat. So typically people are going to go down at about 1 to 2 points every time they do it, and you just continue to do it until the emotion's turned off.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, great. That's an awesome, very practical way. So appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, Adam, we are at our time here. For anyone listening, Adam Mortimer has a great energy. He's been working in the business for, a long time now, and he has helped thousands of students all over the world. He's an incredible coach. If you'd like to possibly work with Adam, go, or to learn more about Adam, go to achievetoday.com/coaches. And then if you'd like to sign up for that free 45-minute consultation, go to achievetoday.com, where just right on the front page, you can put in your info. Someone will give you a call within probably a week and help you through that consultation, to help you to identify some of your limiting beliefs and then really clarify your area across the board. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining in, and we will talk to you soon.